Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, the second largest fire in our state's history is still burning up north. We'll have a look at the firefight. Plus, crews start to get the upper hand on another blaze that's destroyed hundreds of structures.
Leslie Chance, the former elementary school principal convicted of killing her husband, is due in court today to learn her sentence as her attorney fights for a new trial.
And KGET is teaming up with local organizations to bring free COVID-19 testing to Compassion Corner. This week, we'll tell you what you need to know if you think you need a test. This is Wednesday, August 26, 2020. Good morning, 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen along with Alex Fisher. And on my way in this morning, I saw stars in Tehachapi.
I think you can definitely notice the difference that the air quality is in fact improving. It's nice to see that you can actually see in the afternoon. The visibility has definitely improved over the last couple of days. Let's turn things over to Kevin Charette, who has a look at your forecast because, although there is some improvement, we're still keeping our eye on the air quality.
Yeah, as far as the fires, when they're burning, we see the smoke, and if we see any weather patterns develop out of the north, which we're going to, that could usher in a little bit more smoke our way. But again, air quality has been improving, so that's good news. But we still have the air quality alert in place for us, as you can see here, and this is going through 11:30 in the morning on Thursday. Tomorrow, we'll see if we have to extend that at all. Taking you outside right now, we're at 76 degrees under a calm wind. Visibility is where we should be, right around 10 miles there. You can see throughout the afternoon, temperatures will be near 100. 57 in Tehachapi right now under a calm wind. Visibility at 6 miles. And as we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast here, you can see we will be rising into the 80s throughout the afternoon. I'll have much more in your forecast. That's coming up in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Kevin. New this morning, family members say a man is dead after a shooting in Northeast Bakersfield. It happened just after 11 last night in the 700 block of Water Street. We spoke to a witness at the scene who said his brother-in-law had died. Deputies on scene did not provide any information. We reached out to the sheriff's office but did not receive a response by news time. We'll update you as soon as we have more information. And that's the sound of power lines popping as a huge fire tore through a detached garage last night. This is in an alley off Kentucky Street. It's unclear how the fire started or if any cars were destroyed. You can see in the video there were cars nearby just on the other side of that fence.
The deadliest wildfire in the state right now continues to burn this morning. The LNU complex fire is now the second largest fire in state's history. It started August 17th and has destroyed more than 1,000 homes and buildings and charred more than 356,000 acres. 5 people have died. The wildfire is burning in parts of Napa, Sonoma, Lake, Solano, and Yolo counties. It is 27% contained. Meanwhile, the tide seems to be turning in the fight against the CZU lightning complex fire just north of Santa Cruz. It is now 19% contained. And thanks to some moisture from the marine layer, which helped extinguish part of the fire along the coast, improving conditions, the sky allowed crews to drop 200,000 gallons of water on the flames yesterday. Now crews are shoring up existing control lines on the nearly 80,000 acre fire.
In your 17 Court Watch this morning, today Kern County Superior Court will hear a motion for a new trial in the case of Leslie Chance. In January, Chance, a former elementary school principal, was convicted of killing her husband in 2013. Defense attorneys accused the jury of misconduct and filed the motion for a new trial. Prosecutors say there's no evidence of juror misconduct. The hearing is set for 8:30 this morning. If the motion for a new trial is denied, Chance will be sentenced.
County supervisors approved a $3 billion budget for this fiscal year as the county continues to face financial hardships, mostly due to coronavirus. CAO Ryan Alsop said even with what the county is facing, the budget will help the county recover while keeping its essential services. The budget makes no cuts to the sheriff's office and funds a training academy. The county fire department will also see an increase in its budget. County administrative officials as well as the fire chief have repeatedly said a short-term plan has been created that will not close fire stations. However, both sides say there could be more financial complications in the future. Supervisors also approved a $5 million plan to ensure families will not face eviction or foreclosure during the coronavirus pandemic, with $21 million in COVID relief coming from the state. Kern plans to use $5 million to help people struggling with the rent and mortgage payments. Families can receive up to $5,000 if they're facing eviction or foreclosure. 20,000 households in Kern are in danger of eviction right now. That's according to a local nonprofit, Faith in the Valley. To qualify, you must have an income of 80% below the median income in your area and face eviction or foreclosure. County administrators say they still are working on the application process.
A Tehachapi doctor is accused of gross negligence in her treatment of a newborn baby. According to the state medical board, the accusation against Dr. Susan Jane Perry Hall involved a baby who was later diagnosed and treated for meningitis and found to have permanent brain damage. Among the accusations, Dr. Hall didn't review the baby's hospital records when the child was first brought to her and failed to get a urinalysis in another visit when the baby had discolored urine and tenderness in his abdomen. No hearings have been scheduled for the board to discuss the matter and decide whether to revoke or suspend Hall's doctor's certificate or take some other action. Hall could not be immediately reached for comment.
Public health officials say 11 more people have died to coronavirus here in Kern County. 251 people have died from COVID since March. On average, between 2 and 3 people die every day to the virus. County officials say 221 people are in the hospital right now for complications of coronavirus. State health records show 53 of those people are fighting for their lives in ICU. Meantime, 286 new positive cases were reported, bringing our county's total to more than 28,000 cases. More than 10,000 people have recovered. New numbers are expected around 10 a.m. And researchers at MIT and Oxford University now say coronavirus can spread a lot, could travel up to 26 feet in the air. With viral spreading amplified by someone coughing or shouting, several other factors like ventilation, room occupancy, and exposure time all play a role. Researchers are recommending those returning to the office now wear a mask no matter how far apart they are.
Our Compassion Quarter hasn't been busy this year due to the pandemic, but it's coming back to life this week to help people get a free COVID test if they need it. We're teaming up with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Kern Public Health for federally provided test site this Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 o'clock at night. We'll be running that station outside of our news station in the parking lot at 22nd and L Streets in downtown Bakersfield, thanks to the Kern Community College District. Pre-registration is requested, but walk-ups are welcome as well. For more information, visit our website, kget.com. And coming up this morning on Sunrise, we'll talk with an organizer for the event about who should come down to get tested.
You know, and again, this is an opportunity for people who do not have symptoms. You don't have to have symptoms to come down and get
at this test site.
At this
some you do.
Site.
So
yeah. So and again, you can come up, day of, but they highly recommend that you make an appointment, reserve your spot, because it just makes the process so much easier.
Yeah, for sure.
In and out.
All right, still ahead this morning on Sunrise. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it can be hard for kids to get a good education while distance learning.
And it can be especially difficult for children with special needs. Still ahead on Sunrise, what parents are demanding at one school district. Welcome back. State legislators are working to reduce statewide suicide rates as calls to suicide hotlines rose a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Senator Melissa Hurtado of Sanger and Assemblymember James C. Ramos of Highland will hold a news conference this morning to urge fellow legislators to support the creation of a new Office of Suicide Prevention. The pair say the state needs a new, focused strategy to combat the rise in suicides due to soaring mental health issues caused by job losses and long-term isolation. A new study finds there are distinct methods parents can use to help improve their children's ability to cross a street safely. University of Iowa researchers watched a parent-child duo cross a virtual road with continuous traffic. Many parents told their kids to cross by saying, "Let's go," or began crossing without saying anything. But when parents gave constructive advice, like pointing out safe gaps in traffic ahead of time, kids learned the skill faster and were more efficient.
5:19 is your time now in education news. Virtual learning has been tough on many students unable to return to the classroom. But for kids with special needs, it can be especially difficult. And now a special program to help them in one North Carolina school district is no longer available.
Right now, he's not learning anything. He's sitting in front of that Chromebook, and he's just yelling and screaming. In one video, he's, banging his legs really loudly.
17-year-old Ben was born with a genetic syndrome called MECP2. His mother said he's functionally as able as a 12 to 18-month-old. He can't walk or talk. A North Carolina statewide notice says students like Ben with a special waiver to have caregiving services during the school day would have to choose between having those services and access to the classroom. And for many, that's not acceptable.
It's not reasonable to make a parent choose between their child's education and whether or not they're going to work. Just give us the flexibility to use our already approved waiver hours that has already been budgeted into her plan to let us use those hours during the remote and blended learning.
Unless the rules are changed, parents there will have to decide whether to exchange virtual classroom hours for caregiver hours, homeschool their kids, or have them drop out until things go back to normal. I mean, this is hard on families with, normal ability children, but when people have those special abilities, it really makes things just extra difficult.
So much more difficult, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things that I think a lot of us forget about is that there are so many students and parents that rely on the help to send their students to an actual school facility.
And those specialized care that, really a parent can't provide,
Right.
and a screen can't do either.
Yeah. All right, still to come. Around the world, some places have closed down due to the pandemic, and they're slowly starting to reopen.
Still ahead, museums, though, may not survive the shutdown. That's still ahead in your Business Watch.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Welcome back now on your 17 Business Watch with Save Mart teaming up with the American Red Cross. They're providing a relief for those affected by wildfires in Central and Northern California. The fundraising campaign is called Round Up the Change. Shoppers can donate pocket change or more if they feel so inclined at the checkout stand to support those impacted by the devastating wildfires. It's happening at all Save Mart and Food Max stores in town. For more information, visit our website, kget.com. Bakersfield's Guild House is set to return early next month, reopening its doors September 8th. Guild House serves food to raise money for mental health and substance abuse services for local children, adults, and families. Guild House will reopen for outdoor dining and takeout only. They'll be open Tuesdays through Thursdays from 11:30 to 1:30. Call the number on your screen for reservations. That's 325-5478. You can find Guild House on the corner of F and 18th Street. McDonald's is putting a spicy new twist on its McNuggets. The first new flavor of nuggets is sold in the U.S. since 1983. Spicy chicken McNuggets with mighty hot sauce and a new Chips Ahoy McFlurry will both be sold starting September 16th, but only for a limited time at participating locations. As cultural institutions slowly reopen throughout the country, many museums may not be able to recover from the pandemic. NBC's Liz McLaughlin has more.
Some museums, normally bustling with crowds on a pre-pandemic day, are still empty.
It's been lousy. We're all looking forward to the museums opening again.
At Discovery Place in Charlotte, North Carolina, even the animals seem to be tired of quarantine.
The animals miss the humans as much as the humans miss the museum experiences.
Cultural institutions in New York are starting to reopen this week with new safety protocols, including reducing capacity to 20%. For the Met, the largest art museum in the United States, that's a fraction of the 35,000 visitors it could draw on peak days.
So we're gonna go check out the pirate ships.
San Diego's Maritime Museum had to close and reopen 3 times, and now it's missing the usual tourist traffic that makes up 75% of its customer base.
This is probably one of the most important collections of historic ships in the world, but there's not much point to it if no one can see it.
Many museums have pivoted to virtual offerings, but these types of activities can't fully replace the revenue stream of in-person visits. According to the American Alliance of Museums, as many as 1/3 of museums in the U.S. will have to close for good.
So it does put museums that have less financial resources at graver risk for surviving into the future.
Some are crowdfunding, including Alabama's Space and Rocket Center, which was able to exceed its goal on GoFundMe to save Space Camp.
Welcome back.
But not every cultural institution will be so lucky. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
Such a shame. Still ahead in our next half hour on Sunrise, Vice President Mike Pence will officially accept his nomination for the vice presidency, but his choice of venues causing some controversy. We'll explain why coming up. Taking a look at our top stories this Wednesday, family member Sam Mann is dead after a shooting in Northeast Bakersfield. It happened just after 11 last night in the 700 block of Water Street. We spoke to a witness at the scene who said his brother-in-law had died. So far, the sheriff's office has not responded to requests for information.
And the LNU complex fire is now the second largest fire in state history. It started August 17th and has destroyed nearly 1,000 structures and charred more than 356,000 acres. 5 people have died. The wildfire is burning in parts of Napa, Sonoma, Lake, Solano, and Yolo counties.
Researchers at MIT and Oxford University now say coronavirus can spread a lot farther than 6 feet. Studies now suggest it could travel up to 26 feet in the air. Researchers say those who are back to work should wear a mask no matter how far apart they are.
17 News is your local election headquarters, and the Republican National Convention continues tonight with Vice President Mike Pence arguing President Trump deserves 4 more years. He's making that speech outside Washington, and that's causing some controversy. NBC's Tracy Potts has more from D.C.
Our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Patriotism, that's Republicans' focus tonight as Vice President Mike Pence accepts his nomination from historic Fort McHenry in Baltimore amid criticisms of political events on public property. Last night, it was First Lady Melania Trump from the White House aiming to win swing state female voters.
He's not a traditional politician. He doesn't just speak words. He demands action and he gets results.
Mr. Trump praised by 2 of his children.
It is a fight that only my father can win.
My father has made me believe that America can truly be great again.
His chief economic advisor crediting the president for one area where he continues to dominate the polls.
Americans are going back to work. There's a housing boom, there's an auto boom, a manufacturing boom, a consumer spending boom. Stocks are in record territory.
The president popped up twice on video in a naturalization ceremony and pardoning a convicted felon in Nevada.
I can't tell you how grateful I am.
As Democrats projected COVID numbers outside the RNC's auditorium, the night's sharpest attack on Joe Biden came from former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Democrats have been lecturing America about integrity for 4 years, while their nominee has been writing the textbook on abuse of power for 40 years.
Biden's campaign quoting media calling Bondi's claims a fountain of falsehoods.
We heard a lot about crime and the economy, but not so much last night about the coronavirus pandemic. The First Lady mentioned it. The Chief Economic Advisor mentioned it in the past tense, even though polls show it's the #1 concern among Americans. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Washington.
An update now on a dog who was in the vehicle when her owner careened off an embankment while possibly under the influence. Kern County Animal Services reports the 10-year-old dog is in their care and is currently expected to survive, despite multiple life-threatening injuries. The woman, whose name has not been released, is suspected by investigators of driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol on Highway 178 through the canyon on Saturday, eventually sending her vehicle flying off the side of the road where it crashed and caught fire. Both the woman and dog got out in time and were taken to be treated for their injuries. Well, some positive news regarding that dog on the perfect day. Today's National Dog Day. Here's to man's best friend. Wednesday is National Dog Day. The day encourages people to own dogs of all breeds, pure and mixed. You can celebrate by walking your dog, or if you're a little more bold, adopting one. And it's a great time if you're considering adopting because there's still time to bring home a new furry family member for free. This month, we've teamed up with the Bakersfield Animal Care Center for our annual Clear the Shelters adoption event. This year, we're going virtual due to COVID, but the mission is still the same: give homeless dogs and cats a loving home.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.